Dave.
Coach Day, do you like the way the schedule sets up this year with the 2 bye weeks kind of, about 2 weeks apart? I mean, it's an unusual schedule. Do you like the way it sets up, or would you prefer it maybe a more traditional schedule?
No, I think it gives us a chance to, kind of regroup a little bit and, kind of take some self-assessment on where we're at during the season. Also heal up. So I think anytime you can get a bye week, it's great.
I know you're not going to get specific about it, but overall, halfway through the season, do you feel good about where your team is at, health-wise, and just were you guys able to heal up a little bit during the bye week?
Yeah, a couple weeks to kind of heal up, and I think overall we are. We've played some depth this first 6 games, and so we got a lot of guys out there, which is great too. So we do have some depth at different positions. But like any team, 6-7 weeks into the season, there are some different things, nagging injuries here and there. But overall, we've been pretty healthy.
Far left, Lori.
You had said that you wanted to do some self-scouting during the bye week. What was your top-line takeaways from that?
Nothing. Just like you said, that just are glaringly, evidence. Just a lot of little things here and there on both sides of the ball. And when you play 6 games, you start to create some tendencies. You do different things, and so you just want to look to see, first off, personnel-wise, if you're doing things the right way, and then secondly, schematically, what are our tells? What are some things we need to clean up? And then, as individuals, what are some things they need to get better at? And so we gave all of our guys 3 different things they need to improve at, so that we could say get better, but get better at what? And there were some more targeted ideas on what we need to get better at.
Ryan, what is the challenge of coaching a team where the mistakes aren't gone? I mean, I imagine when the margin of return is very tight with the corrections that you have to make. What are the challenges of that?
Well, we just have to be critical, and I think that the players have to understand that as coaches, we're not being overcritical. It's just that we understand as talent equates, and we start getting into these games like we do this week. It's going to be, those issues are still there. They're still in the film, and we have to address them. And again, as we start to get tighter competition, they're going to show up more and more. And that's the challenge, I think, for the staff and for this team to understand, the maturity to understand that the urgency to get better, even though maybe sometimes those mistakes haven't cost us a game yet.
Third row right, Rob.
When this game was announced Friday night, a lot of high school coaches were upset by that. Are you sympathetic to their plight, and how much have you heard from them in terms of how it might hurt them, and you being the guy in Ohio, or are you a sounding board for them on that?
Yeah, but I haven't really got much feedback from the guys on that, just one-on-one in my conversations with high school coaches. I'm sure they don't appreciate it, but that's out of our hands, out of our control, and not much we can do about it.
Far right over here, Jeremy.
Can you, looking back to when you started as an assistant 15 years ago in college football, to the reputation Ohio State had as a football factory, and in the last few years, you guys have been much more involved recruiting kids who have offers from places like Stanford, Northwestern, et cetera. Has that been easy for you guys to sell based on Real Life Wednesdays, all that stuff, or how have you been able to push for those types of kids against stereotypes?
Well, I think the best thing about Ohio State when you're recruiting right now is not only can you recruit throughout the country and the reputation that we have on the field, but also off the field and what we're doing academically. And so what's happened is, we've opened up our recruiting to really everybody. But the thing that we're doing is we're competing against some of the top academic schools, year in and year out for some of the best student athletes. And I think what everyone's finding is not only the networking and the reach that Ohio State has and the power of our alumni is really great, but also what a great academic school Ohio State is, and all the different things and majors and different areas that guys can come in and do a great job in competing at the highest level, but that also competing at the highest level in the classroom. And so that really has opened up a lot of doors for us and a lot of opportunities recruiting different people.
Is there still a pushback, like when you go around different parts of the country for people who don't really buy it?
I think the further away you go from Ohio, I think when people come in and see our campus and get to meet with our academic people and understand what a beautiful place this is, but also the power that it has academically, I think that they learn more and more about it. I think the closer you get to Ohio State, the more they know that. In the Midwest and everything like that, I think the reputation speaks for itself. but it is great to get people who are in different parts of the country to come in and show them what we have.
Second row left, Bill.
Ryan, this is maybe a little off topic from this week's game, but I wanted to ask you about the offense that Northwestern was running, back in the day when Randy Walker and Kevin Wilson were there. It's my understanding that Chip went and visited with those guys when he was at New Hampshire. I'm just wondering if that ever became any kind of influence on you as a player, watching those games, watching Zach Kustok doing what he was doing.
Yeah, we used to watch all the films. That was how the spread game started, and we came back and called it everything that Kevin Wilson and Coach Walker and everybody called it at Northwestern. That was like the way to run the spread offense. And so Chip went out and visited them and came back with all the different terminology. And I was like the guinea pig quarterback to try to figure it out. And some games and some plays were better than others. But that was the start of it. And Kevin Wilson was right on the front end of that. And so, yeah, the offense that we were running there, a lot of it had to do with Northwestern. There were other teams. I think Rich Rodriguez was at Clemson at the time, and Wake Forest had a part. There was different, versions of it, but certainly Northwestern was right on the front end.
Moving forward from that, I guess, how did it influence you as a coach, that idea that you can spread teams out like that but still run the ball in a powerful kind of way?
Well, yeah, I think the idea is that you're trying to create space, and especially today's day and age with the size of the different players that are out there. It's become harder and harder to run between the tackles because they're so big and strong, and the more you can get guys out in space, the better off it is. You look at basketball, that's the way they're going. It's the same thing in football, but that doesn't take away from the toughness and the edge that you play with and block and run with. And so having the two of those, being physical but also being able to spread teams out, I think is a great combination.
Front row right, Austin.
Ryan, I know most weeks, obviously, you're trying to get Justin ready for a game, so maybe the backups have a harder time getting top-end live reps. Was last week a chance to do that, and where do you see Chris and Gunnar at right now?
I think that's hard. Anytime you're a backup quarterback, especially, to challenge yourself to be ready at any point. You're one snap away from playing, but sometimes it feels like you're miles away, and that's the challenge of a backup quarterback. But I think they know that, and like you said, going into the bye week and anytime you have opportunities to practice like that, whether it's spring ball, bowl practice, preseason, or a bye week, then certainly those guys get more and more reps to prove themselves.
When you expanded, you touched on the value of last week for preparation. I guess we're starting to see Garrett Wilson come on a little bit, Jameson, Zach Harrison, Josh Proctor. Is there a sense that you guys are starting to actually add some depth with these young guys right now?
Well, they've gotten a lot of reps, and so they are growing and they're developing, and they should be because they've been playing more than maybe a typical freshman would. So, the more reps they get, the better they're going to be. I think if they're getting reps and not getting better, that's a concern. So, I think a lot of those guys are coming on and getting those reps, and now they're going to have to prove that they're ready to play in the big time as we get into these tough environments.
Right behind him, Kyle, second row right.
Yeah, just kind of along the same lines of what Rob asked. I mean, where do you stand on the whole Friday night thing? I mean, would you prefer to just play all your games on Saturday?
Again, I try not to worry about that. And when the schedule comes out, we're going to go play wherever they tell us to play. And I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that because it's not really under my control or something that I can worry about. So we just, when the schedule comes out, we'll go figure out where they're at and we'll go play them.
Since you're coming off a bye week, I assume, does it not really change your week at all?
We just start everything a day earlier. Yep.
Today's Tuesday.
That's right.
Second row middle, Steve.
Yeah, Coach, I'm not sure we saw Demario McCall against your last opponent, Michigan State. Just what can you characterize why he wasn't available, and will he be back for this game?
Yeah, that was not a coach's decision or anything like that. That was something that came up in pregame, and he wasn't available for us at the time.
Will he be able to play, you feel?
We hope so. Yeah.
Third row left, Ari.
Hey, Ryan, I think there's a trend in college football right now where just true freshmen are contributing more. I think at Alabama, they might have 6 or 7 guys that are true freshmen starting, which is atypical for a program like that. You guys are very similar. Why is that the case? And you have guys like Garrett who are heavily involved and stuff. Are players just more ready right now?
I actually brought that up. We talked about it this morning, talking with Mark Pantoni. I do think guys are more and more ready to come play. I think maybe physically they're more ready, more exposure to different things. But I do think, now more than ever, guys are more ready to play. And with the new 4-game rule, it's kind of forcing guys in there to play a little bit. They have this opportunity to get out there and prove themselves. And then they can kind of grow from there and build from there. And I guess it's given them an opportunity to prove that they can play right away and that they do deserve reps. And so I think it's a combination of those two things.
When you look at recruiting and having those discussions with Mark, you could just look at your depth chart right now and you can see there's a chance that this team could lose their entire secondary after this season. And you have a lot of spots to fill in recruiting in the secondary. When you're recruiting, obviously you want every player to be as close to ready as possible when you're recruiting them, but do you ever look through that lens of, hey, we're gonna need guys to be ready immediately? And does that change the type of player, the type of personality, the way you approach it, any differently than you would recruiting at a position where you have a lot of depth?
Yes. I think when you're looking to recruit somebody, typically you look at them like, hey, this is a guy that we project that can come in and make a difference right away. He's further along in his process, and so we have those conversations. You got to come in here ready to play. Then there's other guys that you look at that are maybe a little bit more developmental for whatever reason that is, and they're going to take a couple years, but it doesn't mean they can't be great players. And everybody has this journey along the way, and I talk to our players about that all the time. Is that just because one person's playing earlier doesn't mean you need to be playing earlier. Everybody has their own journey along the way, and we've all heard unbelievable stories about guys in their 5th year playing, guys who play right away, guys who play in their 2nd year. Everybody has their own way, and that doesn't mean one player is better than the next. It just sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but certainly we try to figure out where they're at in recruiting and then plan accordingly.
Might sound stupid, but just to rehash that a little bit. If you know that you're going to need players immediately at a certain position, you would not recruit a developmental guy at that position the year before in the anticipation that hey, there's going to be a big gap of talent here that we need to fill immediately.
It certainly becomes a lot harder if you have too many developmental guys in a position of need, for sure. Absolutely, yep.
Right next door, Colin?
Going off what Ari asked, is how much of a conversation is there with sort of the current young cornerbacks on the team when you look at that as a position that might have some departures this offseason?
Yeah, in conversations, it's you're first off you're 1 or 2 snaps away from being in the game and being a starter full time, and then secondly, your time is now. I mean, you have to start having that mentality. You can't wait until guys leave the program. I mean, you got to have the approach that I'm here right now, because you might be out there in the second play of the game, or not. But either way, at some point, the passing of the torch is going to be to you, and so now you're no longer a freshman. You're no longer a younger guy. You have to become veteran and play veteran, and start to show leadership and understand that you're going to be the guy. And there's a lot that goes with that. There's a much different approach with that, and very much more urgency about you, and much more mature.
And then going off that, Cam Brown is someone who you guys relied upon in the second half of last game. He's someone who was injured last year, came in as a wide receiver. What have you seen in the past year from him to get him to this point where he's the first cornerback off the bench for you all?
A tremendous amount of growth. I think Jeff Hafley and our guys, and it's not just Jeff, it's everybody in the program. It's Mick in the strength and conditioning. It's Ryan Stamper. It's everybody involved, as you're bringing guys along. And I think Cam would tell you that, maybe 6 or 7 months ago he wasn't ready for this. And but he's matured into a really good young man who's taking care of him, all of his business off the field, in the classroom, and now on the field. And that's typically what happens, is that when you really start to take care of what's going on in the classroom, you're doing a good job off the field. You start to make plays and you start to become reliable and play with discipline as well. So really impressed with how far he's come. And the good news with him, he's got a high ceiling. He's got a long way to go.
Right next door, Dan?
Ryan, you were asked about DeMario. I think he's a guy that a lot of people thought would play more this year than he has. Jalen Gill kind of in the same boat. Just both of those guys, where do you see them in terms of where they're at right now, and what do they need to do to earn roles in the offense?
Well, DeMario's had these kind of nagging injuries back and forth, and he's had some different return opportunities, and he's going to keep getting opportunities, and he has to make the best of those opportunities. And Jalen, still working to fight into the depth chart.
Obviously, the H-back was a really big position here during Urban Meyer's tenure at Ohio State. You guys have mostly used K.J. Hill as more of a traditional slot receiver in that role. As you look forward to the future of this program, do you want to have that Curtis Samuel type of H-back in this offense, or are you looking more for those traditional slot receivers?
I think it just, you're looking for best available, and then it's your job as a coach to figure out what they do best. I think K.J. Hill's a very different player than Paris Campbell, and Paris is different than Curtis Samuel, and they're all different than the last guy. And so You try to look for somebody, who has a real high-end skill set, whatever that is, working in short areas, and then you kind of go from there. And one of the things going into the season for us was that, we felt like our 12 package was stronger this year, and so that H position has been supplemented a little bit with a second tight end, and I think that's been good for us. So again, it's, you try to recruit the best available, and the best players possible, and then you try to go adapt the offense based on that.
Second row middle, Bruce.
You play Northwestern, and they're one of the worst offensive teams in the country. Wisconsin plays Illinois. Looks like a pretty much of a layup W. How do you keep your guys' minds off 2 weeks as opposed to Friday night?
Yeah, the same thing that we've been talking about all along, which is, all you're worried about is this game right here. And we all know what happens if you start to lose focus, and we cannot do that. So this week we've talked about having a white belt mentality, which is, a mentality that you're starting right from scratch and that you don't take anything for granted, you don't make any assumptions. And if we do that, then we'll be fine. If we start to look ahead or start to let our egos get in the way, that's when we get in trouble.
Did you watch Wisconsin Saturday?
I saw them on TV, yes.
What can you gain from watching a team on television as opposed to scouting them like you scout them as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of, going through the channels, and there was a lot of great games on TV, and it was great to get a day off and rest and be with the family. My son had a football game, so we went to that, and then we got home and watched TV as a family and watched a bunch of the games, but just going back and forth, and you really can't get much from it. You just kind of watch the games and try to be a fan for an afternoon.
Last one on calling plays. Is it, I don't know what the right term is, more fun, easier, different calling plays for this offense as opposed to calling it for last year's offense, and if you could go through the differences?
No, I don't think it's one's more fun than the other. I just think that they're very different when you think about the two different offenses and where we're at with it. But very different people. I think we're 7 or 8 guys different in the mix of guys, and some of our younger guys have grown up. So no, I think it's the same thing. You try to prepare the best you can. You do the best you can about getting first and second down calls ready to go. You do a great job on third down, the red zone, and then in the goal line. Have some situational stuff, 2 minutes ready to go, and it's all about the work that we're putting in now during the week to make sure that those calls are ready to go. And then once they're on the call sheet, everybody gets behind them, and then we got to go to work about installing them, and then the guys own it. And then once it's ready to go and it's on the call sheet for a game, then you just got to call it and trust it.
Second row right, Tony.
Ryan, how much are you guys monitoring the transfer portal right now?
We always monitor it now, and it's something that's kind of new to all of us, but we certainly are. And Mark has guys that are watching it all the time. And the minute somebody goes in, we do our research, looking at film or finding out more about the individual.
Do you go so far as to, like, the guys you maybe missed out on a year ago who aren't playing? Is your staff maybe projecting that these guys might end up in the transfer portal? Do you go that far ahead?
Yeah, right now we do not have somebody assigned to just looking at players on other teams. I don't know if that's going to be the next round. We're going to talk about that in the off season and figure out if that's the right thing to do. It's kind of a scary road to go down, but right now we're not doing that. And if somebody pops into the portal, we'll do our research and find out. But right now we're not doing research on guys who are on anybody's team.
And then lastly, do you hold a roster spot for the portal at all?
No. I mean, if it works out that way, great. But we try to recruit, high school guys to fill those spots.
Front row left, Doug.
Ryan, Justin has seemed so in control of the offense in the first 6 games. You talked a lot before the season about, you guys are going to have to help a new quarterback in the first 6 games, and then you can have the bye week to maybe readjust. Did you give him more of the offense this week? How did the bye week let Justin grow, and how much of the offense was he really working with in the first 6 weeks?
He was working with just about all of it. He's learning it more and more, and it's the same thing with the bye week. We're trying to enhance the best we can, and work on our fundamentals. He has certain things he needs to work on, and he's going to do that. But we've kind of thrown the whole thing at him, and he's been able to handle it.
Did you know, we've talked about it a lot, did you know he'd be able to handle it? Like, just the way that, again, we know he's dynamic and explosive, but it's just he's been so calm and controlled, it seems like. Did you know he'd do that in the first 6?
No, I didn't know he'd be able to handle it, but he's still got a lot to work on, too. He's talented and he makes plays, but there's still a lot of stuff on film and a lot of yards we're leaving on the field that he's got to work on. And we all have to work on. He's not the only one. Everybody on the whole team has things they need to improve on. And so certainly he's off to a good start, but there's just a lot of things that we need to clean up.
And then just overall, the quarterback room, could you just reset again, and I'm sorry to ask this, but like in recruiting, what your ideal quarterback room looks like as you stack guys, and as we all know the transfer portal and all this, and you guys have gone through it, is your view of the ideal quarterback room changing, or is there no such thing as an ideal quarterback room anymore? Because it's like, man, everyone's kind of going to be winging it because we're just expecting quarterbacks to move in and out.
Yeah, a little bit of both. I think the ideal quarterback room is 4 quarterbacks and young guys that you're developing who want to get on the field and understand how much they love Ohio State and the program and want to be here forever and work through it. And even if they're not the starter, they still want to be here and love their teammates and all those things. Unfortunately, that's hard right now. And so I've come to grips with that. As much as we'd like to have 4, we're going to keep working on getting 4 and keep recruiting 4 and work as hard as we can to make sure we have those guys in here. But also knowing that in today's day and age, especially the way that we develop quarterbacks here, a lot of guys are going to feel like they can go somewhere else and play. And I get that. But, when we recruit guys, we tell them you're going to be recruited here and you're going to be coached at the highest level in all of football in terms of the style that we're going to be running on offense, the different protections, the different coverage structures, the whole style. And so I think they love that. I think that's why guys want to come here.
Front row right, Joey?
When you've scouted Northwestern this week, their defense has had some low-scoring games, kept teams low scores. Does anybody pop out on film for them?
Yeah, I think they do a tremendous job on defense. I mean, really, that whole defense is back from last year, Big Ten championship game, and Pat is as good a coach as there is in the country. I mean, that's documented, and it's hard to find a yard against them. I think they're a top 30 defense in the country. I believe they held Wisconsin under 300 yards total yards. I mean, they're good. They know exactly how you're trying to attack them. They make adjustments. It's a defense that's been around for a long time, and they know exactly what you're doing. They're sound in what they do. Patty Fisher's, the guy in the middle who kind of keeps everything going, and across the board. I mean, there's guys who played a lot of football in that group, but it goes back to Pat. I mean, he's one of the more thorough coaches. He obviously played there and understands what he wants to get done, and they play that way. I mean, they're sound, and they don't give you anything.
Right next door, Bill?
This first 6 weeks, I'm sure, went as well as you could have hoped in terms of performance. You got a lot of praise around the country. Was this a good opportunity this last week to be able to step back, and you kind of alluded to this a little bit, to say, okay, we do have a lot to work, a lot to improve on. How much was that kind of drilled into these guys last week?
Yeah, I mean, that was part of going through and working on our 3 up, 3 forward, which is trying to figure out 3 things they've done well and 3 things they have to improve on, and show them that we have to get better. And again, how do you get better? Well, here are 3 things you need to work on to get better. And so they met with their position coaches, they met with me, and those were ways to really say, hey, these are things that if we're going to go where we want to go, you're going to have to do that. And then talking to the team about things we need to do better as a team.
Josh Meyers stepped in at center. I'm assuming you think that's gone very well. How would you kind of assess his play and also his leadership on that line?
I mean, only 6 games in, but so far so good. I think his communication's been really good with those guys inside, and all 3 of those guys are really new. Wyatt obviously played towards the end of the year, but those are 3 new guys in there that I think have handled it well so far. But we're going against a really good defense this week, and we're going to continue to go against really good defenses moving forward. So tales yet to be written, but obviously a good start.
We got time for 2 more reporters. Front row left, Nathan?
One of the big turnarounds from last year this year is limiting big plays on defense. Is there something schematic you think has led to that, or just the natural improvement of a lot of those guys coming back?
I mean, again, no defense wants to give up big plays, but I think we've done a good job of teaching, where everybody fits into the defense, and I think that was some of the feedback that we've got is that guys understand where everybody is on the field, and so if you know where everybody is when you go to track the ball. I think that's important. You can play a little bit more confidence knowing maybe you're not on an island. You have guys that are coming with you, swarming to the ball, and I think that's helped.
And go back to Meyers, just as a former quarterback yourself, just what do you expect out of a center as far as his kind of command of the game or what he's doing out there communication-wise, leading, and how is he fitting into that kind of blueprint?
I think, that part is really good. other than the quarterback, he's the guy that has to run the show up front in terms of communicating, the identification in run game and the pass game. He handles the ball. He's got to, talk to guys up front and make sure that everybody's on the same page. And so the center has a lot more going on than everybody else. And so you have to be able to multitask. You got to be able to do those things and be high functioning, which he is.
And far left, Matt?
It's a time of year where, like, strange things happen. Georgia losing at home to South Carolina. How much do you pay attention to national things like that happen? Are they use them as lessons, or you just try to tunnel vision yourself a little bit on?
I think anytime you see something like that, it gets your attention and reminds you of how fragile this is. And all it takes is one game where we're not following the plan to win. We turn the ball over. We don't tackle. We don't show up to play. And there you go. And so we know all about that. So do we spend a lot of time talking about it? No, but it's always out there as a reminder.
Also, Northwestern, you're 10 months removed from playing them for the Big Ten title. And obviously, things haven't gone their way this year at 1-5. Do you still see that when you look at them on tape? What do you see?
Same guys, especially on defense, which I watch a lot more of the defensive guys. I mean, they're there. It's the same defense, and they're playing just as hard, and they're just as good. And statistically, I'm pretty sure they're close to how they ended last year. So not much has changed there.
And we do have one final question. Rob, third row right.
You look through the notes, you look through the statistics, historically good. I know there's room for improvement, but specifically as you can, what are you happiest about with this team?
I think that, again, going back to the chemistry, I think guys, they care about each other. I think they love each other. They are playing for each other. And I think that we played with great energy and we played with toughness.
Are they playing a little, I don't want to say looser than a year ago, just in your sense? Is there just a sense that these guys are just flying around and maybe not tight, that they are really enjoying themselves?
I don't know about that. I think that, like I said, we're playing tough. I think that they care about each other. There's good leadership. I still think there could be more leadership. We're still working to clean up a lot of the things in the execution, and we still have a long way to go. So it's hard midway through the season to really get an assessment on all of that. I think in another 6 to 8 weeks we'll have a much better idea where it all stands and be able to reflect on it.
Coach, thank you very much. Thanks, Ryan.
What's up, everybody?
The floor for Coach Hafley, second row left, Bill from the Athletic.
Jeff, with the way you guys align your defense, playing one high safety a lot of the time, we know that Sean is a good cover guy and he has to cover in that position, but how important is it to have a guy who can get involved in the run game the way that he can, play as physically as he can, so that at times he can essentially function as a fourth linebacker out there for you?
You're talking about Sean, the way he lines up on the inside?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Anytime you ask a guy to play that position, it's not just for coverage. There's times when he has to bump into the box and sometimes play the B or the A gap. So he does have to be pretty physical. He has to be pretty smart. He has to understand the scheme, the run game and the pass game. So there's a lot that does go into that position.
Is it rare to find a guy who can do all the things that you're asking Sean to do right now?
Well, anybody that we ask to fill in that spot has to be able to do those things. I think it helps that Sean is really athletic. He's got good size. He can tackle. He can cover. And he works really hard at it. But anybody that we're going to ask to play that specific position, we're going to ask to do the same thing.
Front row middle, Dave from 24/7.
Jeff, how is Josh Proctor coming along, and especially with Isaiah Pryor transferring? Does that, I know Jordan's, he's the guy out there, but does that help Josh's chance to get playing time, and just how is Josh doing?
I think Josh has made really good improvement since the time we all got here. He understands the scheme. He's worked really hard. He's done a good job. He's done a good job on the field and in the classroom. And I think you see we used him early in the season. He got a little bit more playing time the last few games, and hopefully that will continue to happen. He's done a nice job.
Northwestern's Used a couple of quarterbacks. Hunter Johnson started the year off for them. It looked like last game they went to Aiden Smith. I mean, I'm sure you guys are preparing for both quarterbacks. What do you see from those guys?
Well, I think Hunter Johnson, obviously started off at Clemson, was a backup there, and then he transferred. And, from everything I've read, was one of the highest recruited players coming out in the country. I think he's talented. He's got size. He's got good arm strength. Both can run the football. So, we're looking at them both. We're preparing for them both. They both do things well. They have similarities, but they're good football players.
Front row right, Austin from Lettermen Row.
Jeff, you guys have put Cam Brown out there before, obviously the Michigan State game, but he had to play that whole second half. What did you think of that performance from him?
I thought he did a good job. It's never easy to just, come into the game from the bench and play as many snaps as he did. So I think he did a really good job. I think Cam's a guy who's worked really hard. I think he might have maybe improved the most out of all the guys from the time that we got here until now. And that's a credit to a lot of people in the weight room, off the field, to our coaching staff, to the young coaches, really for working with him. But he's really developed and he's really grown up. And the way he practices, I wasn't surprised at the way he played, because he puts that on tape every day we go out there against really good players. And he did the same thing last Saturday night.
When you guys get down to that second or third corner, what's your comfort level with the depth? And Cam Stuff is part of that.
Very comfortable with those guys. They work hard. They do everything we ask to do. And whoever we put on the field, I have a lot of confidence in. And I was very confident in Cam going in the game.
Third row left, Dan from 11 Warriors.
Jeff, you were asked about Sean and his position. I know that, he's a guy who played a little bit of outside cornerback too. You were asked about Cam. Is that still something you look at where if you needed to, Sean could still go outside and play outside if he needed to?
Yeah, there's no doubt Sean could play outside. And there's some snaps where he has played outside. There's some games where I still think he will play outside. I think he could be a very good outside corner. Just right now, the things we're asking him to do with Damon and Jeff on the outside, he's kind of, we've had those conversations. There's certain games where we almost flipped it around. But for right now, that's where he's been the most. But I think we have the versatility to move all those guys. So you might see him outside at one of these games.
Obviously, he's got a decision to make coming up after this season. Do you talk to him at all about if you come back next year, this is what your role could be, and would that role potentially be outside?
No, I talked to him about what we have to do at practice today and what he has to get better at. And I'm not ignoring your question, but that's the truth. He still has to get better. We all do. And there's some stuff yesterday we need to work on that I will talk to him about that today. And tomorrow I'll talk to him about tomorrow, and we'll just keep doing that until this thing's over. But we can talk about that at the end of the season.
Third row right, Rob from the Dispatch.
You guys are, I think, statistically number one or tied for number one in fewest chunk plays allowed, 30 yards or more. Is there anything inherently defensively that you do or can do about limiting chunk plays? Is it a tackling issue? Is everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing issue? What would be the main thing?
Well, I didn't. That's good that you told me that. I didn't know that. I think it's a credit to our players and the staff, but it goes into a lot of things. I think schematically, the number one thing we talk about when we put in new calls, when we talk about anything, and we'll say it over and over again, we want to eliminate explosives. So if we think a blitz is really, really good, but there's potential for it to give up an explosive, we're not going to put it in. If we feel like there's a really, really good coverage that, say, we want to run on 3rd and 4 to 6, and we really like it against what they're doing, but there's a chance to give up an explosive, we're not going to do it. So everything we think about explosives, because our whole philosophy is we want to make you drive the length of the field. And if you can drive on us the length of the field and then put it in the end zone against us in the red zone, nice job. And then we got to figure out why, and we got to adjust some things. But we can't just give up because we got cute or we got sloppy. So I think that has been built, if that makes sense, on that. So we think about that all the time. Then I think you got to talk about tackling, right? Because a lot of times if you don't get the guy down, it could go for an explosive. And I think we work really hard on tackling. So a credit to the players and the staff on that. And then I think our scheme allows multiple guys to get to the football at the same time, which I think nowadays the way everybody creates space, which you guys see all the time, right? You don't want one-on-one. It's scary. If you miss one tackle and it goes for 50, that's hard. So we also want to look at how can we have coverages, pressures, scheme that in space we're going to have multiple people around the ball. So that's what we try to look at everything we can do. And so it's a combination of a lot of things. But But that's good to know, because if we can continue to do that and not give up explosives, we've got a chance to be a good defense.
And then Justin Fields on the other side of it, you see a different perspective. What has impressed you about him, his growth, maturity, where he started, where he is now, and how challenging he is in practice even to...
He's really challenging. That's what we noticed in training camp. I mean, the thing that I look at, just really, especially from a back-end guy, the way he sits in the pocket and stays in there and wants to throw the ball down the field. It's not like some of these guys where they hit their back foot, the first read's not there, and he just takes off. He makes you cover for a long time. And then he also has the ability to tuck it down late and run. That's hard to defend. He's throwing the ball really well. It looks, at least, I don't study the tape like our offensive guys do. Now, there's sometimes in the booth, if we're done doing what we're doing, I'll look up and see him doing some pretty amazing things. It looks to me like our receivers are catching the ball pretty well, too. I mean, those guys are doing a great job. But he's hard to defend because he can play the quarterback position. He can sit in the pocket and make all the throws, but then he can run too. So, at least from my opinion, it's pretty impressive.
Third row left, Ari from The Athletic.
Jeff, so there hasn't been a moment this year where you sat in the office with Sean and just like, dude, you got to come back next year.
No. Sean's going to come and sit in my office today, and I'm going to get on him for some things he did in practice yesterday. You can come in. I'm just joking. You guys,
What time?
No, but I don't. I honestly, have I ever lied to you guys yet? I don't talk to him about that stuff. I don't.
Are there ever times where you are looking at your depth chart? Because I know you're game planning. You're in a situation where you have to have this team ready every week. We understand that. But obviously you're deeply involved in recruiting, and you could look at the depth chart that we all look at and see there's a good chance or a real chance that you could lose everybody from one group. I mean, is that something that you ever ponder?
You're making me think too far down the road. I think, yes. I think you have to think about the future, or else then I would be lying to you. So you have to prepare for that. I think the way we coach our young guys every single day and how hard we are on them and how demanding we are on them, I think that's preparing us for that. Because we have really good football players in that room besides the guys that you see every single day. And I wish more guys have had the opportunity to play so everybody could see that right now. But they haven't. Maybe you'll see that down the road. But by the way we prepare the guys we have in our room right now, that's the most important part. So those guys are getting coached hard. In the meeting room, it's the same thing. So that's what we really have control over right now, is can we develop those young guys in the room to be ready for when it's their time? Because we don't want them to wait. I talk in the room all the time, like, go challenge Jeff Okuda today. Go challenge Shaun Wade. Don't sit back and wait. Go try to take their job. Do the best you can. And that's what we have to do as coaches, and that's what they have to do as players. But all we can worry about is the guys we have in the room right now. And then when we get the next group in here, then we got to start worrying about them.
2017 recruiting class, Ohio State signed, I think, 6 defensive backs. And it was like one of the best hauls, if not the best haul of defensive backs in a single recruiting class in the history of recruiting. Literally. Now you guys are seeing the benefits of that when you have top 5 pick potentially in Okuda back there and Sean and stuff. You guys now are assembling a 2020 class, that needs to replace them. When you look at the guys that you guys are bringing in, when you look at the guys who are on your list and the people, do these guys have to be game ready, as close to game ready as possible in order to fulfill the idea that, hey, your entire starting secondary could be in the NFL next year?
I mean, you like them to be game ready. I just think that's hard. I think playing, especially if you just use corner, for example, I think it's a hard position to come in and play and be ready. Now, there's exceptions, right? I mean, there's a big jump from the high school to college. You'd like every guy you recruit to be ready. I think when you get them and you see how are they going to react to the speed of the college game, how are they going to react to some of the rule changes, some of the different coverages. So I think there's so much unknown. It's just like being in the NFL, was a rookie corner really ready to come and step in and cover Julio Jones? I mean, it's not everyone is. Even when you draft a guy in the first round, that guy might not be ready to play right away. And sometimes those guys get forced to play too early. So every situation is different, So we'll see. We'll see when guys get here. And I get what you're asking, too. It's just I don't think you can say, yes, they have to be ready. I mean, we got who we got. Let's go coach them as hard as we can and see what we can do.
You can be scared about it, too.
I'm not scared.
Front row left, Nathan from Cleveland.com.
I guess kind of playing off of that question, did you guys need someone like Cam Brown to sort of step up and assert themselves as, if this happens next year, I'm ready. I'm ready to kind of shoulder this load?
Yeah, what I think, though, I think the point that I'm making is that I'm most concerned about is throw next year away. Like, we have hopefully a lot of football left. So I'm not going to just drop names, but when you take the backup at every position in that room right now, they better be ready to go play on Saturday. And then if they don't get in, they better be ready to play on the following Saturday. Because next year to me is like a lifetime away. I mean, I'm worried about this Saturday. If this guy goes down, he better be ready. If they both go down and both of those guys aren't ready, then I failed as a coach. And to me, that's why it's hard to think about that. But no, we got to get all those guys in that room ready. It doesn't matter how old they are. It doesn't matter where they are in the depth chart right now. And that's a job as a coach, and that's a job as a player, and that's what we're working for.
Ryan said that as recently as like 6 or 7 months ago, we didn't think Cam was ready for this opportunity. Was there something you said to him, any conversations you had with him early on to kind of help get him headed in this direction? Or?
Not one specific conversation. When I got here, it was just trying to get to know everybody, building relationships, building trust, which takes time. But there's a lot of things that go into which I've learned to coaching in college. Again, there's so many different people that touch people, right? So it's, like I said, it's the strength staff. It's like our interns and our quality control coaches that people don't see or aren't even talked about. Those guys are around those young guys a lot, and they do an unbelievable job. They're in their offices a lot talking to them. They're making sure everything's good with them in school. So in order to really succeed on the field, they got to be in a good place in school. They got to be in a good place mentally. So I think so many things have happened with these young guys where Ryan has put together such a good group of not only coaches, but those younger guys do such a good job that don't get the credit, and they've done an unbelievable job helping them as well. But there's not one specific thing. And it's also Cam has worked so hard, academically, just on the field. So I wasn't surprised how he played Saturday because of the work that he put in.
And final couple questions, a couple reporter questions from our right, Bill?
Yeah, I already kind of asked the question, and I want to ask, you got another commitment yesterday. I know you can't talk about these guys, but how good do you feel about the group of DBs that you're going to be bringing in next year?
I feel good about them now. We'll see when they get here. I'm confident. I don't think we would have recruited guys unless we really thought we could do something special with them, right? So when we evaluate a guy on a tape, whoever it may be, I mean, we want to feel really good. I mean, this is Ohio State. We want to say this guy's got a chance to be special. And if we don't, then we're not going to recruit him. So we feel all those guys that we are recruiting right now can be special.
I'll ask you the same question I asked Ryan. You've gotten a lot of praise. You guys have played very well, obviously. How important, though, was having a week off to be able to take a step back and say, okay, here's really where we are, and really where are you in terms of defense right now?
Yeah, I think it was a really good time. Just to really sit back and watch the tape again, to see what we're doing well, what we aren't doing very well. Looking at personnel, looking at some of our tendencies. I think it was a good time because we're kind of like halfway through, right? So I think it gave us the opportunity to really take a step back, fix some things, maybe improve some things, put people in maybe better positions, and just really get focused on this next week.
Can you say what you're not doing well? Because that's not so apparent.
There's a lot of things we're not doing well that we need to do better. And I'm not just saying that because the perception is we're doing well, but there's a lot of little things we need to do better. And I'm not going to go into all of them because I don't want to give that stuff away. But when I say that to me, defense is about all the little things. It's about taking the right step. It's about lining up with the right leverage. It's about being in the right gap. It's about having your eyes in the right place. And to me, it's about a process, not always the result on defense. Because sometimes the result is misleading. Sometimes it might look great. We might have an interception. We might have a blown coverage on the other side of the field that nobody sees, right? Because some of that stuff happens. So you gotta make sure that you don't just look at the result and say, wow, these guys are really good at this. But no, you're not really good at some stuff. You need to clean up the little things so the big ones don't get you later. And that's the biggest thing that we had to look hard at. And the players need to see that, and the coaches need to see it. And I think that's some of the stuff that we saw. The process has to get better. The results, yeah, they've been good so far. But we need to do the little things to make sure those big things happen.
And final questions, front row right, Joey from the Dispatch.
You mentioned just by facing Justin Fields in practice that he'll make your defense cover for a long time. On the opposite side of the ball, you have Chase Young, who would seem to make you guys cover for a very short amount of time because of how he can get to a quarterback. In what ways does having a player like that affect everything else you're doing on defense?
It affects a lot because I'll give you an example. When you watch tape a lot of routes look really good. There's a lot of deeper developing routes that happen down the field that you sit there and you watch early in the week and you say, if they can run that one, that's going to be really tough. And then you look at another one, you say, wow, if they can run that one, that's going to be really tough. And then you start to realize when the D-line gets after people, those deeper developing routes, they don't exist. They have to go to shorter routes and quicker concepts, which you guys have seen. So having players like that up front, they help out a lot because you don't have to defend all those deeper things that happen down the field that are harder to defend, which is why I say that your secondary is only as good as the guys up front because they take a lot of that stuff away.
Great. Coach, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to open up the floor for safety, two-time team captain, Jordan Fuller. Jordan, we're going to open it up front row right here, Austin from Lettermen Row.
Jordan, how would you evaluate that first half for you personally?
Personally, I feel like I've gotten better each week. I don't know. Just definitely wanted to improve on a lot of little things from last year, and I think I've done that. And just try to do my job to the best of my ability, and if something breaks, get it on the ground. So yeah, I think I've done a solid job, but definitely have a lot of little things to get better at too.
I know that a big part of your reason to come back was a team goal, not just for you personally, but are you doing the things that you set out to do and coming back so far? Are you feeling validated by that decision at this point?
Yeah, just mostly just the whole vibe as a team has been great. I've just been having so much fun playing football, and that's really just the main reason why I wanted to come back. Just try to leave a legacy here and just have fun playing the game and go out like I really wanted to. So yeah, I think we've taken the right steps so far, but definitely got to keep going.
Far left, Lori from 610 WTVN.
You mentioned wanting to leave a legacy. What do you want your legacy to be?
I don't know. I've always wanted to, come to Ohio State. I wanted to leave it in a better place than I came in. So just leaving an imprint on young guys like Josh Proctor or Marcus Hooker and countless others, but just trying to leave my mark, really.
What did you get out of the bye week? Were you able to nail down some stuff? Did you get anything out of your meeting with your position coach and Coach Day? I mean, what benefit was the bye week to you personally?
I think it's always good to be able to take a step back. I mean, during the season, you kind of get caught up in the week to week, and you're really focused on your opponent, but you're able to really look in the mirror on your bye weeks. So I think I was able to do that. We were able to do that as a team, and I think I took a lot from it. Just being able to rest up a little bit, get your body a little fresher, and also just showing up on the little things, like I said, and just working on my leadership as well. So.
Front row right, Bill from the Dispatch.
Hey, Jordan, could you kind of analyze the development of Cam Brown? I mean, people know his story a little bit, but he converted wide receiver and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What progress have you seen in him?
Yeah, so he's always been just a great athlete, just a freak basically, super fast. But you know, he was just kind of raw when he came in, kind of new to the position at corner, but just his work ethic and just his focus has really propelled him into a great position right now. And if he keeps going, he'll be the next name you guys are talking about. And there's definitely other guys in the room too, but I'll let it be a secret right now.
Front row, third row right, Rob from the Dispatch.
Maybe one of the biggest differences last year to this year is the chunk plays. You guys now lead the nation, tied for leading the nation with fewest 30 yards or more plays given up. From your perspective, why is that? Why are you guys doing so much better limiting those chunk plays to only 4?
Mm-hmm. I think it's our tackling has gotten better, our pursuit to the ball. So you don't feel like you're making a one-on-one tackle as much, I feel like. So when you have other guys surrounding the ball, you feel like you can really just take your shot, really. And I think that's really helped us, just having more eyes on the ball and stuff like that, just getting to the ball carrier.
Third row left, Dan from 11 Warriors.
Jordan, what does Sean bring to your guys' secondary with all the different things that he's able to do?
Yeah, just a lot of versatility. Obviously, he could cover great, but he's also really smart, and he knows like everything that's going on. He's calling out plays before they happen, constantly, and I mean he showed his versatility, being able to sack the quarterback too. So I mean really, you could just plug him anywhere, corner, nickel, shoot. My position, I bet he was excel at. So yeah, just his versatility just helps our defense in great ways.
How much does that help you do your job when you know that he's up there and he can handle so many different things in front of you?
Oh, it's great. I would say Sean, but as well as just the whole defense, they take a lot of pressure off me. I can feel a little bored at times, just everybody's making plays in front of me, but yeah, everybody takes the stress off me, really.
Jordan, thank you very much. Unless I've got it, did I miss anyone? Jordan, thank you.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan.
You're that good, they're that good in front of you.
Is this someone's phone? Okay. No, but I think it's probably still in my bag, and I will. No. College. Tomorrow we'll get them action. We'll get them up there. Group huddle. Group huddle action. You guys have to say. Is there a Northwestern headline? College.
Kate Fitz, it's the headline.
You won't be getting him. Calhoun accused of sex. Be getting it all. I'll let you surprise who you get. Last week's events. No, tomorrow.
I'd be more worried if most of this
Yeah, but still, I need to talk about his director PR, Adam Whitman, and he tells me that doesn't work.
top story tonight.
Guys kind of like parked it in the training room.
Remember there. It got worse and worse. You get one shot. How about the hardball? It's the fight hardball. People wonder, why is everybody trying to talk back up? I know. Guy in the room.
It's a little 25-0 rep going on.
I know.
You guys just tell your local FWAA rep how
how much we've worked with you guys this year to make your job easier.
To the minute.
Love it. All right, folks, we will open up the floor for Josh Meyers. Second row left, Bill from The Athletic. Hey, Josh, do you mind yanking that thing up a little?
Oh, yeah. There you go. There we go.
Josh, do you consider yourself a mean person?
A mean person? No.
Yeah, because you play quite mean. I just didn't know.
That's a key thing of especially offensive line play is being a different person on the field than you are off the field.
There are plenty of talented offensive linemen who have the size and the athleticism and the feet and the strength that don't have that mindset that you're talking about.
Mhm.
Where'd yours come from?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think, you know, when I was little, even and played football when I was little, my dad always kind of taught me that. You know, taught me how to be on the field, and then how to attempt to be a good person off the field as well. So that's just something that my entire life has been taught.
Do you think the offense you played in high school and growing up helps you develop that kind of playing style as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you kind of have to be, right? I would think. So, yeah, I think so.
Front row right, Bill from The Dispatch.
Yeah, Josh, your transition has looked pretty seamless from the outside. Has it been pretty seamless?
No. Not at first, for sure. You know, I think I had I had a full year my sophomore year, or a true sophomore year, redshirt freshman year, I guess, to develop. And that year was huge for me. I think, obviously as a redshirt freshman, not winning that starting spot, I was upset and angry. Just because I wanted it so bad. But looking back on it now, I probably wasn't ready for it.
And this year, first of all, did that give you extra determination this year when you knew the job was open? It was competition.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how did you approach it?
I just approached it like I had something to prove and something to earn every single day, and I did. And that's how I approached it every single morning. It was on my mind before practice, and I wanted to make sure I didn't let it slip.
Far left, Lori from 610 WTVN.
Your offensive line didn't have a lot of time to come together because you weren't together in the spring.
Right.
How do you explain how well you guys have been able to mesh with given that?
I think with the time we have spent together, we've just come so close. Even Jonah, getting here so much later than everyone else, we've just had, we spent a lot of time together. I think camp was huge for that. You have no choice but to spend all day together for a good 2 weeks straight. I don't know. We just are a group of guys that click well together.
And what do you guys do when you hang out? How do you use that time to bond?
Yeah, a number of things, We went out to dinner a couple weeks ago. We, just hang out, a lot of times get here early and just, eat dinner together after practice. It's just all the time we're doing stuff together.
Front row right, Austin from Lettermen Row.
Josh, how much more comfortable or confident, whatever word you want to use, are you now than week one? Significantly. I was confident and comfortable, I would say, week one, but there's still a lot of questions I hadn't answered for myself yet. That I'm just a lot more comfortable now after having experienced the first half of the season.
I know we talked about this at the Rose Bowl, that there's this tradition at the position and the responsibility being in the middle. Could you have fully grasped how challenging maybe that position is and being in the game until you actually got out there last month as a starter?
No, things happen so fast in the games, and I think one of the hardest things about center and about me as a player is I always wanted to get it so right, which is one of the things I struggled with. Like I mentioned, my redshirt freshman year, is I wanted it to be perfect. And I think accepting that it's not always going to be perfect and going fast and living with the call I make and what I do has helped me come a long way, especially even in this last month. In a game, it's not going to be perfect. I'm not going to have time to say what I want to say all the time. I just got to go with it. So.
Did I miss anyone for question line? Okay, third row left, Dan from the Atlanta Warriors.
Josh,
Kevin Wilson, last week, when he was asked about you, he said you played real good about 3 different times. I mean, how does that feel to know that you've gained the trust of your teammates and your coaches at this point?
It feels amazing. It feels amazing. That trust is everything, and that's, trust is why, we're 6-0. Trust is why I think our offensive line is playing so well right now. Is, we all trust each other.
And Harry Miller behind you seems like another guy who's gotten a lot of praise. Just what have you seen from his growth so far this year?
Yeah, he's done a great job. He's been super consistent, which as a freshman is something that's really hard to do. And then obviously from the mental side of the game, he's doing an incredible job for a freshman. I mean, stuff he shouldn't be able to do, he's doing.
Front row middle, Joey from the Dispatch.
Coach Day was saying Northwestern's defense is tough they make you fight for every yard, basically.
Mhm.
From watching them on film, what makes them tough to go against?
Yeah, they have a good scheme. And if you don't know what you're doing, it can be very confusing as an offensive lineman, and especially as a center. And then, they're good. That's not just their scheme. Their players are good. They returned a couple guys from, last year's Big Ten championship game team. So they're a good defense, and, they're definitely going to make us scrap for yards.
Does anybody stand out to you from their defense? Any players?
Their 2 interior guys are tough. I can just tell by watching them. They're strong, big guys.
Second row right, Tony from the Ozone.
Josh, hearing Dan do his impression of Kevin Wilson, does anybody on the offensive line do an impression of Stud?
Oh, Stud?
Yes.
No. Never.
Fair enough.
Bill, did I miss you?
No, you got. I'll ask another one if you want.
Front row right, Bill.
Would you like to try?
Okay. Just how satisfying has it been to be part of this line and to know that what you thought you could be, you are being?
Yeah, it's been extremely satisfying. I think there were so many question marks about our offensive line coming into this season. 4 new starters and one returning starter, one of which who was hurt at the end of the season last year. So just how far we've come and how we're doing has been so satisfying.
For you, coming from a wing T offense in high school, could you describe the progression as a pass protector for you?
Yeah, it was a long one. I had so many bad habits that were just natural in that aggressive offense that I had to break, and it took a long time. And I'm still working with it. It's not something that I'm ever going to have to stop working at. But it took a long time, and I wasn't comfortable with my pass pro until probably about halfway through last season.
Josh, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Josh.
Actually, I think we're only gonna have one more guy. Nothing we can do about it, Vinny. Things happen. That wasn't exactly the quote, but where was that line? Hey, Josh, good fellas. Nothing we can do about it. No, I don't. Use it. Yes, am I a clown? Fitzgerald's press conference today too?
I think now.
And he was always one of the best.
Hey, Berm. Yeah, but you only talked to him once in 2013. We never played him.
Talk to him about other
Big 12 still does it, SEC does it. You no longer consider yourself a power two
I don't think the SEC says
Why did Joe Burrow?
Yeah, dude. Oh, yes.
we're trendsetters.
That thing Pac-12.
It needs to change. No press. Yeah, no, there's not a press conference at 2. I'm just saying, is Kennedy's today? Yeah, they said it's going on right now. And then what would happen is the basement blogger would have 8 minutes on his own with like, a certain coach.
What's wrong with basement bloggers, man?
He's not even credentialed.
That's one specific.
That's a reason to disparage all.
What do you think about a question after right Roger on today? He's like, hey, I know you're not playing Campbell because you played him a couple weeks ago. Like, what's the thumb down? But I can't talk about that. That's what do you mean? Like you just like brain can't handle like all that information?
Yes. That was the only other time. It's like every coach would get something to say. Funny college to me. Maybe right or something.
Yeah.
I would give him less slack for canceling it if they were doing like somebody had like a good story that's not gonna happen. They were stupid.
Which I thought I would not.
People probably aren't gonna come to the Rutgers and then go like you're playing Liberty and.
People shouldn't talk, the Rutgers people shouldn't talk to Rutgers. Can they just cancel it?
Imagine paying $80,000 for 1 year. $80,000, I'd get a
about getting a degree check while the camera's on?
Okay, folks, we're going to wrap up our press conferences today with senior defensive end and team captain Jonathon Cooper. Coop, we're going to throw it over here to the right, far right, Clay from WSYX.
John, how have you guys, I think you're tied for the fewest chunk plays given up, 30 or more yards. How have you seen the defense put an end to that?
I feel like just with our attitude and the way that our defense has come out to practice every single day this year, we've taken it very seriously. We came from last year with something to prove, took it every single day and just trusted our coaches and their schemes and everything, and we came out with something to prove every single day.
How have you not, or how do you not allow yourself to let down with Wisconsin waiting next week, big national game?
We focus on every single week, take every week very seriously. and we try not to look too far ahead in the future. We make sure that we take every single opponent as seriously and focus on them that week and worry about the other teams when they come.
Front row right, Bill from the Dispatch.
Yeah, first of all, how do you feel after the injury and all that? How beneficial was having an off week for you?
I feel a lot better now. Obviously, I wasn't 100%. Obviously, the injury still is lingering and still there, but I feel, especially having this bye week, I feel a lot better, and I feel like I'm finally getting close to being 100%.
And as well as the defense has played, how close is it to its potential?
I feel like we just scratched the surface. You know, I feel like there's still a lot of things we can get better at. I feel like there's a lot of things we can still do, and I feel like we're taking the necessary steps each and every week to reach our potential. But I don't even feel like we scratched the surface yet.
Right next door, Joey from the Dispatch.
How did you use the bye week? Was it a chance to kind of get rest, or did you see it kind of as a practice time to get in more reps?
I saw it as just trying to get rest. You know, I wanted to get better. I wanted to get back to feeling like myself out there on the field and not letting the ankle limit me as much. You know, I just wanted to get back to feeling good and feeling like I can do everything I wanted to do out there without it hurting.
Is there an area you want to kind of concentrate on or work on the next couple weeks of the season?
Regards of what?
Just into personal development, in terms of an area you feel like you can make strides in, really make an impact?
Just getting healthy, you know, just making sure that I'm 100%, making sure that I'm becoming the player that I want to be, and making sure that ankle doesn't limit me as much.
Front row right, Austin from Lettermen Row.
Coop, did you think that Zach Harrison could have the kind of impact he's had this early?
Yeah. Zach came in, he's a great guy. He works really hard. He takes coaching very well. Since day one he stepped on campus, I mean, you guys see him, huge, talented guy, very, very fast. I didn't expect anything less of Zach.
Seems like it actually, I mean, in some ways, not for you. You didn't want to miss those first 4 weeks, but it did help with the depth a little bit, right? I mean, Javonte played some, Zach played. How beneficial could that wind up being for the Rushmen as you go on here?
I feel like it could be very beneficial because even though me missing those 4 games sucks for me personally, but it helped those young guys get ready and develop and realize that, hey, like, your time is up, your time is now. When you get out on the field, you have to be able to play. You know, you have to be able to produce. And I feel like them having those times out there, those reps out there, makes them better and more prepared.
And far left, Lori from 610 WTVM.
Things have been going so well for you guys. Are the coaches, for lack of a better word, nitpicking to try to get you guys to not get too much of a swelled head or to think things are going to come easy the rest of the way?
Yeah, I would say no, you know, because even though everybody sees like, oh, we're playing really well right now, we watch the film and we realize that there's still a lot of things that we can get better at. And the coaches point those things out for us. So every single week we're still coming with something to prove. And even though we're playing at a high level right now, we still have a lot of things that we can work on and to even become a better team.
Who is it that's most responsible for making sure that you guys do a good job of balancing swagger with the proper amount of humility needed to attack each and every opponent like you need to?
I feel like it's the players, you know, the captains, the leaders, the seniors of the team, you know, to make sure that, yeah, we're playing really well right now, but that doesn't mean we're going to lax or become relaxed or when we come out of practice, we're not going to go as hard. Every single practice, we're still taking it like it was a preseason camp practice, you know, still with everything to learn, everything right in front of us, especially when it comes to the meeting rooms. We're still taking notes like it was spring football. You know, we're taking everything, the necessary steps to make sure that we can continue to play as well as we have.
Jonathan, did I miss anyone? Coop, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, that'll wrap it up for today.
Okay, folks, you got 1 minute to get out of here now.